You're listening to the Get Out and Drive podcast with John, custom car nerd Meyer, and Jason, old car guy Carr. We'll be bringing you gearheads everything you never wanted to know about cars and why they should be on the road and not in your garage. Are you ready to get out and drive?
I want to go back to something I asked you at the beginning of this interview, and that was, what are the rules of Cannonball? Now, the short answer to that was there are no rules. Okay, Brock Yates said it himself when we started the Cannonball back in whatever year it was. And here you are, you've gone with no rules. You've made the run in 25:55. And when the time came that you could actually announce that you did the 25:55, all of a sudden people are trying to poke holes in your story.
Yeah.
Because they don't think that you did it on a slow run. They don't think you did it in a rental car, and they claim that you had an unfair advantage doing it during COVID. Everything that they were trying to poke at you comes down to the one rule that Brock Yates set at the beginning of the Cannonball Run.
Yep.
How are they trying to deny you this win? How are they how are they trying to pull this away from you?
So again, there's no rules. You can release the information whenever you want. And, I look back when I got the whole thing done, and I just kind of, what in the world did you just do? And it's kind of your come to Jesus moment at the end of it. I'm sleep deprived. I've been up, nearing 30 hours now. And, you really look at yourself and you're like, what did I just do? And you walk away from it. You go home, you sleep it off. And then in the next few days, you start really realizing what you did, but you can't tell anybody. You can't go broadcast it on Facebook. You can't do all the stuff that maybe people normally would have done. And one of those things was, I know there's a lot of opposition to me. I knew it going into this. We led up to this through the interview. And I told my brother that I needed to do something. I said to myself, and I said to my brother, I said, if we don't put something out there, it will always be said that it was Alex Roy, April Fool's joke type deal. And even between the time of Gulf Shores and the point that I knew somebody was going to call me in, but Alex was the pinnacle of, I'm not releasing anything because I'm not going to get in trouble. And I was the pendulum in the other way. I'm like, we need to do something to release this, because if you wait to whatever the statute of limitations is, it's going to be incredulous, especially where I was not using Cannonball here. So my thought was, after we did the Bandit run and people knew that I had used the Mustang for the Bandit run, that I would put a few little teasers out there. And that's when I dropped like a couple photos of building the car. Nothing anybody could do anything with, but planted the seed out there that there was either a run coming or there was being a run that had been done. So that's really where I planted the seed. The great part is I have all this like printed off. Someday I'll write a book and we'll put it all in it and have fun. A lot of crap started in a group chat that people didn't realize, and really straight out called me a liar. And there's people watching this that were in that group chat. I said, as far as I'm concerned, get in your car. We will go to New York and we'll settle it California. And I have that in the same phone that everybody tries to say in an article that was lost, was broken. And there's another thing you were asking about, defamation. They write stuff that just isn't even true about me. I almost feel embarrassed for them. Do you know what I mean? Because they can't conceivably understand how somebody could take the time and articulate a run like that. That was one of the things that took place that really set the tone about me releasing my information. I don't care who stole the Cannonball belt while nobody was looking. That being said, I was very, very gentle with what I gave them for information.
Now, how long was it between the time you finished, you set the record, and you released that it happened?
Month and a half.
Holy cow!
Crap.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a baller move.
Yeah. So I put it out there. I'm like, come and get me. I was putting myself out there that if I waited till the statute of limitations, my credibility is completely gone. It's gone. You know, you waited a year. You're in the Cannonball community. You know all these guys. You're going to wait a year to release a record. You're not going to tell anybody on the DL. No. So like you said, I shine those brass ones up and I put it in publish.
Wow.
And my brother's a really smart person. And he said to me, JR, you got to be really careful with this. He said, because anything they give them not only can be used against you in a court of law, but can be used against you in your credibility. I was advised through my attorney. He says, you need to make sure what you send them has no information on it. And I said, okay. So I went through what I had embedded on my phone with the author of the article. And he looked at everything and he said, can you send me some photos? I said, I will send you photos. I said, but they will be scrubbed photos. It'll take the license plate off the car because that needs to happen. And this is what we're going to do. And he's like, that's completely fine. I've seen your stuff. Everything looks good. He said, let's do it. I said, if you're fine with that, I'm fine with that. If you don't want to do anything, I don't care. But don't say that I'm hiding anything from you. I said, what I'm not giving you is to protect me as an individual. When I started doing the main piece with that individual, another individual wanted to do a video about it. And I agreed. I said, sure. And we're still in COVID. We're still in lockdown. There's still limitations. So that weekend, there was a race called the East Coast Shootout that took place in Maine to Florida. And I held the party for them. So I got 100 lobsters or something and cooked them up for those guys. And we had a good time. And the article had come out. We just enjoyed it. And it was really good. The guys came up, Taylor and Mike Elsey and, Captain Chaos, he came up. All great guys, just nice hanging out, and catching up with everybody. And I flew down to Atlanta. And I walked in the door and there was a little bit of, there was a cloud in the room. I'm not sure if it's a black one hanging over my head or it was animosity or what it was, but I come in and I'm a very upfront person. I let things go. I'm not dragging it out. We'll move on from it. I don't have to keep dragging the hatchet out. And felt like we kind of buried everything and went through the stuff that I had on my phone, stuff he could look at, stuff that he could document, wrote some stuff down, probably 3 or 4 minutes. And my brother flew down with me. My brother had everything embedded in his phone that I had sent to him, that he had followed through on, all the stuff tied to everything that ties everything together. We had tablets. I think we had 2 tablets. I had my phone. He had his phone. We took everything down. And a few minutes just looking through my stuff. I don't even think we looked at all of it, but we looked at the timestamps and the things on the phone. And he says, I had sent him the same photos that I'd sent the other person so he could do a promo video. And my brother says to me, he says, would you like to look at my evidence? And he goes, no, I'm all set. And Arthur goes, well, you need to look at this while we're here. And he just simply said, I don't want to be compelled to testify. And so you think automatically somebody's looking out your best interest. That's how I felt. And that's where I was. I thought kind of this bridge over troubled waters had passed. And the article came out, the video came out, everything was great. And everything was going along fine. And the person who talked to me about the video said, GQ would really like to speak with you. And I said, okay, give them my information. And they said, well, I'm interested in handling all your marketing. And you guys know me. You messaged me the other night. You want to do a podcast? Yeah, I'll do a podcast. I had college kids. Hey, I'm doing a thesis on blah blah blah. Would you talk to me about the Cannonball? Yeah, sure. I care about the automobilia about it, whether it's the Cannonball itself, or whether it's the Baja 500, or whether it's Pikes Peak. I care about that part of it. That if me as an ambassador doesn't give that back to other people in my own way, then that stuff dies away. And it's not just me, it's you guys. You guys do this every single day. If you guys weren't out here doing this, then, this would dry up and go away. People wouldn't be building cars. People wouldn't be saying, oh, I can beat that Ashmore guy's record on a motorcycle with a trailer with 55-gallon drum hook to it. You wouldn't have those guys out there. And we need that. So I was happy to have the story and stuff out there. So I said, yes. I said, I'll talk to GQ. He introduced me, and he said, when you get ready to release the article, the other guy was talking to GQ. He says to the GQ author, he says, when you get ready to release the article, I like to release another video in tandem with it, which I understand. It's a marketing thing. It's a business thing, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I don't care about marketing. I've never made a dime off of Cannonball, and I never plan to make a dime off Cannonball. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I come back to Maine. The guy from GQ flies in and does a crazy 6-page Fred article about the Cannonball and includes everybody in it. It was great. It was probably one of the best pieces of Cannonball I've ever seen written. I was fortunate to be the focus of it. Took him up to 159 in the Mustang, so he'd never been over 70. And I'm telling you this all for a reason. And just a great guy, young kid. His name's Alex Palmer, a great journalist, did great homework, did his due diligence on the whole entire Cannonball community. And he was great. And I took him for that ride in that car, and I took him up to 159, and I was just driving along, and because he couldn't understand how somebody could get comfortable driving at that speed for that long. And then I took him down to 100 miles an hour, and he's like, oh my word, I think I could get out and walk this fast. And then we got into construction, and he's like, I feel like we're stopped. And I said, well, see, you've never been to 159 miles an hour. But just in that short period of time, you started becoming acclimated. So can you imagine doing that for hours? I said, even you, not that you have the experience, but even in that short period of time you were going that fast, you got the understanding of how a person could drive like that for hours when they got comfortable. And he just wrote the best article. I went down to Boston, did a photo shoot for it, and that's when it all changed.
Jason, we sure get to talk a lot.
Yes, and some of us more than others.
Who, me?
I'm not pointing any fingers.
Yes, you are. But we want to hear from our listeners. Just go to our website, getoutandrive.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click the listener hotline button. We want to hear from you. Cool stories, breakdown stories,
Questions, comments,
hate mail,
even hate mail?
even hate mail. You got a car show in your area? Let us know.
Tell us an interesting story.
Let us know what you like to get out and drive. The Get Out and Drive podcast has partnered with RacingJunk.com to offer a Pro Club membership exclusively for our listeners for just $25 a year.
Just a few perks of the Pro Club membership include up to 50 free photos per ad, a dashboard to keep track of your listed items, and search alerts so you don't miss out on that must-have part.
Don't forget about the Racing Junk store discount. Free video uploads for your ads, $65 in ad upgrade credits, and an official club member banner on your ads.
Just use promo code POD23 when you sign up on RacingJunk.com.
And when I say change, we're going like in steps, for it coming down. It changed again. And at that point, he didn't call anybody to tell him he was releasing an article. So there was no video released with it. So now this person over here was losing out because they didn't get a video opportunity. And people can say what they want, but It's kind of, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. But it wasn't up to me to scratch anybody's back. I didn't ask for the article. That's between those two guys. I didn't ask for anything. Like, they came to me. And then it came a couple other guys didn't get the notoriety that they felt they deserved and didn't think it was right that I was in GQ and they weren't. And it just, the stair step just started coming down more and more and more. And then there was a list. There was a list written. And it started out as these times are in a different color because they were in COVID. COVID runs is what they were called. And a lot of the COVID runs were under statute of limitations because a year hadn't gone by. So I didn't think nothing of it, and I think I was eighth highest watched video that year on that platform. It was great. It served really well to the people and everything else. And I felt like the guy did well, or whatever he gets paid with his advertising and stuff. And I was happy for him. Meanwhile, I'm just a regular guy doing what I do. And then I started hearing some chatter. That there was some talk going on in the background. And that's the best part is all these guys think that Fred doesn't know what's going on. But I do. I know about all the group chats. I know all the stuff that was said about me by different individuals. So I'm starting to hear this stuff coming out because just like me, that's why I didn't include cannonballers in it, because cannonballers can't shut their mouths. People are feeding you information, and now you're starting to see things take place based on that information. And that was the thing about, potentially questioning my run and stuff. And my disclaimer is this, because I'm not part of that group. Like you said, it's a boys club and I ain't a member. That's fine. I am cool with that. So I'm at HGTV filming. Somebody messages me and says, "Hey, I noticed your run says lacks evidence. My statute of limitations aren't up. I think this is March. And we made the run in May the year before." And I'm like, huh? And so I look at it. And I messaged the friend, the original organizer from New Zealand. He's like, "You need to call him and you need to straighten this out now." He goes, "That's just an accident." And I'm like, okay. So being Fred, I send him a message. "Hey, didn't know if it's statute of limitations or what, but I know my thing says no witnesses, no evidence." And I get a text message back about 15 minutes later, and it says, "No witnesses, no evidence." This is the same person that said to my brother, "I don't want to be compelled to testify if I know what your evidence is." Same person said, "No witnesses, no evidence." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding?" But I knew it was coming. I was pissed off. And the person says to me, he goes, "Yeah, if you want to send over all your unaltered stuff right now, and they took down my video. I'll reinstate that stuff for you." And I said, "Yeah, that's probably not going to happen." I was tipped off. I knew what was going on. They were going to take what I had and make me incredulous. That was obvious from day one. And I said, I think I'll just let it ride. I said, because number one, if you were honest, you wouldn't have done anything like this till after the statute of limitations were up. So number one, if you took my information now and you had some person that had an itch to scratch as far as an attorney or whatever, you could turn my stuff over to them. I could get prosecuted or whatever. So you're not necessarily getting a Christmas card this year. And at that point, I was like, it's Fred versus them. And I knew it was. And the problem they had was I was a step ahead of them the whole way. I knew what they were up to. And then once he couldn't get the information out of me, then the author of the article decides he's going to start berating me and tell me I owe him something. Well, you're a journalist, so here's a front page story for you, bud. I already know what you're up to. Sorry, bud, all set. Write whatever you want. And that's how I left it. And so this is 2021. And so the hate mail started coming and coming and coming from these guys. It wasn't the general public. It was these guys just being jerks. I'm just riding out the storm. I'm getting ready to get married. I'm cleaning up my property and stuff out there. And the week I'm getting ready to get married, here comes Jerkball again from the original article. You need to send me this. You need to send me that. My editor's this. My editor's that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to get married. I don't have time to deal with this. Sorry, bud. I'm busy. Best of luck. And I called up David Simpson. I said, David Simpson, because he was questioning everything. He was like, oh, this made up story that you were going to get called in, blah, blah, blah. And I called David and I said, David, you need to call and straighten this out. I said, this isn't on me. I didn't call you, and I didn't drop your name out of the blue. You called, you knew why you called me. You know who said it. Clear it up, because they wanted to know why I didn't use witnesses from the Cannonball community. So that guy messages me back and he goes, yeah, I talked to David. He said it was suggestive. I said, what? Yeah, it was suggested. He suggested you not tell anybody. And I said, really? So I called David back. I said, I'm calling you on business. This sound familiar? And David's a great guy. Don't take anything away from David Simpson. I love David. Awesome guy. Was the solo record at over at one point. Amazing guy. And this dirt goes a lot deeper than I'm scratching the surface for you. I need to talk to you for a minute. Well, the year before, David was filming a Zombie Express trailer for an upcoming, he was trying to get a movie sold, and he was working. He's a great author, has some great books out there. There's a plug for you, David. Zombie Road. And he was filming a trailer. So I built a truck and I took it down to Atlanta and filmed it for him at my cost to help David out, because he's a good friend. And I called him back and I said, he was coming to my wedding and stuff. And I said, David, I need you to make a phone call. And David did. And the reporter basically said, yeah, he just said it was suggestive. And I called David back and I said, look, we know this was not suggestive. I said, you know it's not suggestive. You need to call and straighten this out with this journalist. I said, because I'm getting married this week and I'm not putting up with it. I mean, I don't think these guys really understand. Like I said, I'm tolerable to a point, and when I'm mad, they will know I'm mad. So David called, and then the journalist called back or messaged back, and he says, yep, David called and cleared that all up, and you give me what I want, and I'll include that in the story. And I said, what? I said, I'm not dumb here. I said, I'm not stupid. I said, just write what you're going to write. If you're going to write some slimeball piece, just write it. So he disappears. Don't hear from him. The musket ball is coming out. There's a Hawaiian Tropic car that I was been building, kind of on and off. The guy wanted to build it, didn't have any money. And then he calls me right around my wedding and he says, hey, I've loaned the car out for November. I'm like, what? This is September already. I've got to go to Maine to go hunting and everything else. And he's like, yeah, I lent it out for the guy's going to do a documentary shoot with the Lamborghini from Cannonball Run movie. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, no, do you think you can get it done? And I'm like, yeah, because Fred doesn't say no. Fred can get it done. So Fred builds a Hawaiian Tropic. From the day I started it, to the day I finished it was 30 days. Start to finish. Identical movie car. As close as one's ever been done to the real Hawaiian Tropic. Because the car's lost. I built it all off pictures, model, year, and everything. So I get the car done. And I'm driving to New York City, the musket ball. I've paid for the guy who wants to build the car. I've paid for the whole car. And I'm driving. I've paid for him to enter the musket ball. I've called the guy of the musket ball that's organizer, said, hey, I'm not raining on your parade. It's the 50th anniversary. We're going to do a documentary shoot, and we're going to run this car in New York to LA. And a great guy, John Ficara, who's the organizer of it, he says, Fred, I'd love it if you just bring the car. I said, well, I'm going to tell you right now, John, I'm not participating in the event. I would just like to go along for a Gira Hashek and get the footage he needs for the documentary coming out. I said, that's why why I built the car. I said, the other guy can't go, so my brother's flying in, and he'd love to have you. John was more than accommodating. Great guy. And I'm on my way there by myself, as always, driving the Hawaiian Tropic. original motor, from when it was new, driving it to New York. And I'm in my hotel room and my phone starts blowing up. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I look down, it's the journalist from the original article. He's madder than a wet hen. You need to give me this. You need to give me that. Blah, 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 blah. Da, 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 da. I said, yeah, you're more than welcome to get anything you want in person. What? I said, I'm on my way to the Musket Ball in Connecticut. And guess who's going to be there? My brother. I said, so my brother's flying in. He's bringing in all the evidence you want to see. Feel free to meet us in Connecticut. And he lives 30 minutes away. I've driven from Oklahoma to Connecticut, and my brother has flown from Maine to Connecticut, offering all the evidence he wants to see. Here's the evidence. You want to see it, you want to see it. So several people looked at it, and they never got past my phone. They looked at my phone, and they looked and they scrolled and they looked, and I'm like, hey, let's look at, we'll bring my brothers over here so we can get this all sorted out so everybody's happy. I don't need to see it. Well, what do you mean? No, I really want you to see this. I don't want any more of this, smoke and mirrors, people saying I have no evidence. My evidence is right here. Feel free to take a look at it. Yeah, Fred, I'm just telling you, I have seen enough. What you have shown me has more than documented anything whatsoever. And I said, okay, cool, whatever. So I want to say 6 or 7 people. I showed it to the guy whose record I broke. I showed it to him. The only thing he was mad about is that I had a fuel truck set up to refuel with. But he wasn't mad. He's a great guy. He was cool with it. One of the guys that was upset about not getting the publicity had been telling people I had no evidence for a while. And it spilled into a car show that he attended at Maine, where he told everybody that I cheated when I won the 2019 C2C Express because I built a car that didn't break down. So, in fact, yeah, basically that's what it comes down to. There's no rules. And then it spilled onto a page online, which I was a member of, that I offered a lot of advice to cannonballers. And I was basically told to leave the page. So I took myself off of it, and they berated a bunch of people in my family on there. And I'd moved on. We did the Musket Ball. And then around Christmas time, there came out another list. Now, the interesting part about this list is that list belongs to a man by the name of Greg Ledette. Greg Ledette made the list. It's Greg Ledette's list. The list was taken from Greg and made somebody else's list. Do you want to guess whose time wasn't on the list? Greg Ledette's. Greg Ledette's time was taken off the list because they didn't like they just didn't like it. I've talked to Greg a couple times, and he seems like a likable enough guy. He was friends with Alex Roy, and I have no issues with Greg. But they took his list and they made it their own and started doing things like fastest car with a dog in it, fastest car with a dead body, fastest car built on the 8th of May or whatever the hell idea they could come up with. And then this whole thing come out about me fabricating records like the pre-65 record or the nonstop, and I'm like, what did I fabricate? This was nothing I came up with. This was stuff I was, told I should go after.
But these are other people that are black sheep other than you.
Yeah, no, there's a few. I think a lot of them just basically got muscled out because the black sheep part of it came from the fact of I just wasn't wanted there, which is fine. Like I said, it's no skin off my back at all. I'm completely fine. I found, even in more recent days, that toxicity of people like that are detrimental to a healthy life. In January of 2022, I got another message from the journalist. He said, you are going to send me what I want, and you are going to send it today. If you don't send me it today and have it by tomorrow, I'm going to write an article about you, and you're not going to like it. I was on my way. I can tell you right where I was. I was on my way to Louisville, Kentucky, to help HGTV out on a build that a contractor didn't follow through on. And I said to the person point blank, I'm done with your games. Write whatever you want to write about me. You are not getting anything from me. And one of the reasons you're not getting anything from me is because I know what you're going to do with it. I said, what you have for evidence from me are scrubbed photos, because that instilled that I wouldn't be prosecuted. But at this point, what you have is to keep me from being persecuted. Meaning, if I gave you everything that I have and you take it and do whatever you want to with it, now you can say, oh, I got these originals. These come from directly from Fred and X, Y, and Z. And he would have had to been driving 700 miles an hour to get from here to here. And yeah, you can make it say whatever you want. And you're obviously not on my team. You haven't been on my team since before the run. So write your article. Go ahead, bud. Write whatever you're going to write and tell everybody what you want to tell. And he did. He did. And the best part of it was it came out, I want to say 10 days after we had the conversation. And he said he had all my photos forensically looked at by an independent third party. This was the best. I laughed so hard. So you took photos that you knew were stripped of metadata, which in previous conversations, the individual that's mad about me getting any sort of press and stuff said that he can alter the metadata on anything or change it, so that's no good. And then say I altered photos. Well, anybody who read the original article or watched the original video can see that the photos, the plates are all blacked out. So technically, he's not lying.
Right.
But in reality, it's not what was said. It's not what was. He didn't portray truth in journalism. And the truth in the journalism was that I told him I wasn't sending him anything else because I knew what he was up to.
Since we've talked, you've got your photos and you have your evidence and you have the record, correct?
Yeah, I still have everything. And that's the interesting part is so Road and Track's professional third-party forensic evidence, we're talking a magazine that's worth probably $500 or $600 million. Their photo forensic experts were a bunch of random cannonballers that didn't like me. That's what they could afford. And that's who discredited what Fred Ashmore did. So all those people that are in that article are simply a bunch of people that don't like Fred Ashmore. And 99% of the stuff in that article written about me, things that are easily debunked, like the Charger that I supposedly never owned, or never bought or had no intention of buying, the Mustang that I supposedly didn't rent. And, I could go on and on with things that the HGTV, that I got my job because of my Cannonball record, or my phone that was broken that I still use today. So to me, it's laughable. And that's why I don't usually even address it anymore. But I'm more than happy to, and I know it's taken a long time. It's not a short story, and it goes.
No, I completely understand.
Than what we've talked about. Back to Jason. So that's how, what they've done, since then, and basically turned me into the villain of the Cannonball community, which I'm fine. Without the Joker, who's Batman? Batman ain't got a job. So, it's that simple. You need a villain to have a hero. And I've told people before, I guess if I get to be the villain, then that's fine. But, you can say whatever you want to about me. But when it comes down to providing evidence face to face for the people that had the most to say, they either wouldn't look at it or wanted to tell the people that saw it they didn't see it. And that's written right in the article.
Well, I've always said that if they're picking on me, they're leaving somebody else alone.
Yeah, true.
Right. So we can look at this and look at the big picture of, the whole story and say, you know what, shame on them for doing what they did and going backhanded and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you did it. You have the proof you did it. You've broken the record, and end of story as far as I'm concerned.
100%.
And I think it was a great opportunity to get the inside scoop after hearing so many little tidbits here and there of that story from different points of view. And I really appreciate you, kind of filling our viewers in, and getting some of that in-depth backhanded stories of the way it perceived and the way it went down.
Yeah.
Two sides to every story.
There's always two sides to every story. I appreciate you guys asking me about it. That when people really peel back the layers on the onion, they're like, what? Huh?
Thank you very much for hanging out with us.
No problem at all.
And love having you on the Get Out and Drive podcast.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having me.
All right.
We know you enjoy the Get Out and Drive podcast. John, let our listeners know how they can support the show.
Well, you can buy the show a gallon of gas.
Please explain.
You've heard of Buy Me a Coffee, right?
Oh, yeah.
But who needs coffee? We need a gallon of gas. Just go to our website, getoutanddrive.com, scroll to the bottom of any screen, and you'll see the Buy Us a Gallon of Gas link. Just click, and you'll help to keep our show running.
Cruise on over to our website, getoutanddrive.com, for all the info you never wanted to know about our podcast. Hit us up on our listener hotline, be the first to know what's happening, get industry news, and grab your Get Out and Drive merch. Connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on Twitter at Get Out and Drive Pod.
What drives you?